Welcome to another episode of Totally Clutch. This is the Clutch Businesses podcast and vlog. And today we are going to be talking about PR, public relations. So I guess I'm curious if PR is a line item on your budget or a part of your annual plan this year. I know for me, it certainly was. And at the same time, even though it was on my list, it kind of feels a little daunting and maybe like it's not for me. So I will say that, this is the pep talk that I've been giving myself. And I want to share it with you because there's only one you and there's only one you in the world, and you're changing lives with the business, the amazing business that you have. And so it's really important to let people know, because you don't want to hide all of this magic that you're making and all of these things that you're bringing to people's lives. So today we have a very special guest, Cailtin Copple Masingill. And she's going to help us do just that, help us, create some visibility within our businesses. And Cailtin is the founder or founding partner of Full Swing Media, or I'm going to get that wrong, Full Swing PR. And it's a public relations company and a digital marketing firm that helps women leaders be seen, sought after, and ultimately grow their business. So with that, welcome to the show, Cailtin.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, this is such a treat. So I've had the luxury of hearing you speak a couple of times in the last month. And so I'm just really grateful for it. And I know that you've got so much to share, so much important info. So thank you.
Of course. I can't believe we were in the same room together and we didn't actually meet until today, virtually. But next time we won't let that happen.
Totally missed opportunities in real life that, right now feel so important. But yeah. Okay. Let's hear a little bit about you and your background and kind of how you came to do the work that you're doing.
Sure. I think I'm a bit of an unlikely PR person, although the world has changed in myriad ways since I got started in this industry. So like a lot of people, I started out as a journalist, have a master's degree from the University of Montana School of Journalism, and covered state legislators, freelanced for magazines, did a bunch of journalistic things before the Great Recession hit. And then I was like, holy cow, maybe I don't actually want to be a journalist because it's pretty tough to make a living. And two, you have to move around a lot if you really want to advance your career. So I decided I would use my writing skills for good and go into nonprofit communications initially. So I was fortunate to be sort of a Jane of all trades, leading communications for about a $2 million nonprofit early in my career. And then that sort of jump-started me into a whole bunch of different communications jobs that ultimately led to starting my own firm back in 2019. So by then I was 35 and kind of tired of working for other people and felt like I was no longer the youngest kid in the room, and perhaps I could do it myself and have more freedom to be with my young child, who's now 5.
Amazing. Yeah. And I mean, so by 35 though, had you already been a part of the city council and all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I ran for office kind of not super intentionally, which I think happens to women more likely than not sometimes, because I think we're often just like, we're hesitant to apply for a job unless we meet like 100% of the qualifications. I'm sure you and your listeners are familiar with those stats. And with running for office, it's very similar. So my situation was that I was very hopeful that someone else would step up, and it was the last day to file, and no one did. And I could not stand the woman that represented my neighborhood because she had voted against the first LGBTQ inclusive non-discrimination ordinance in the entire state of Montana. So Missoula was the first city to pass such an ordinance and still lacks statewide protections like a lot of the Western states still do. And so since no one was going to step up and run, I decided I would do it and did it and learned a lot. But I was 28 at the time. So 27 when I filed, 28 when I won.
That's incredible. Yeah. And did you just serve one term?
Yep.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. That's so great. Yeah. And I also want to just highlight something because I've been hearing it over and over and over again. And it's also the reason that I started a business, is that you were tired of working for somebody else, and men in particular. It's just, I don't know. it's incredible. I love
Mhm.
that women are starting businesses and kind of taking matters into their own hands, whether it's city council or their businesses. And what an amazing opportunity to highlight like that there are so many. There's so much that can change in the way that
Mhm.
in the working world, I guess.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that's absolutely true. I think having worked for ostensibly progressive organizations and even a B Corp, at the end of the day, I felt like what was missing was more women and especially BIPOC women at the table, because that to me is really how you change the world and change policy. And so that was largely what motivated me to go out on my own. And then, at first I thought, oh, I'm just gonna, be an independent solopreneur kind of person and try to make my old salary and just enjoy the freedom and just leave it at that. Maybe get an assistant someday if I'm doing really well. But I made my old salary in like 5 months, and then I started to read more about women in business and how only 2% of women-owned businesses ever hit 7 figures. And I was like, well, screw this. My new feminist challenge is to build a 7-figure business.
Yeah.
So now we're on the path to doing that. So yeah,
Amazing. And doing it.
yeah,
You're doing
doing
it
that.
this
Hmm.
year.
Hmm.
So cool. That's great. Yeah, it's so incredible. I guess I am curious. So along those lines, so you're creating a business for yourself, but you're also helping all of those women, helping all of those women make money for themselves and build their businesses through visibility. So I guess I'm curious, what do most people think they need to do to gain visibility within their
Hmm.
business?
Well, I think first they need to look at why they want to be visible and who they want to be visible to, right? Because at the end of the day, I don't particularly like to work with people who just want to be famous because they want to be famous, right? I want to work with people who feel like they have a deep personal mission to make the world a better place and who maybe are even skeptical of PR and spin, but who do have a deep longing to be seen as the most authentic versions of themselves in the wider world, and to use that story, their personal story, to help inspire others and to build the kind of platform they need to change more lives, whether that's through reaching more people through a book, through speaking, all of those types of things.
And do you find that with the people that you work with, that's kind of a journey to get to that point? Like they don't come straight out of the gate with that burning passion and that burning
Mhm.
mission, I guess.
I think most people do have it. I think that they have maybe been told that they shouldn't lead with it. I mean, even just going back to when I ran for office, people were like, "Can you just dial down the gay?" even like,
Yeah.
even though I identify as queer, but just I had done so much to help the LGBTQ community around policies and activism that I was definitely known as that. And so to me, I was like, why would I shy from that? It's a huge
Yeah.
motivator to why I'm running. Yes, I care about other things, but like this is very central to who I am. And I think it turned out to be central to how most Missoula voters felt about it. So I just think that sometimes those things that we're told to dial back, or that we're too this, too that, too fat, too black, too queer, whatever the thing is, sometimes those are really our superpowers. And I
Mhm.
think it's important that you choose to work with somebody, if you're looking for a publicist or a PR agency, who really is committed to seeing you and who understands that. And I think as women, we spend so much time trying to be seen, whether it's in our families or in corporate workplaces, that that's partly why we decided our mission would be to help women leaders be seen and sought after. Because I think that whole concept of being seen is just really, it's intimate, and it's deeply essential to who we are as leaders in the world.
Yeah, and I think there's something, so I know that it's not all about making money, it's not all about getting elected, it's not all about being, on top, but
Mhm.
there is something behind that. I feel like that we're told to dial those things back
Mhm.
almost from a place of that there isn't power in
Mhm.
those communities. And I think what we're learning over and over and over again is that there is, like,
Mhm.
it's not one or two people. There are an insane number of people out there that, I mean, everybody is different, right? And from one another. And there are these thriving, rich communities that are just, they're, they are longing for somebody to speak to them.
Absolutely. I mean, you can't be what you can't see. I think we've all heard that old adage, and it's very
Mhm.
true. And we know, Pew Research a couple years ago put out a report that only 30% of sources in the news media are female. And you know that
Yeah.
most of those women who are quoted as subject matter experts are white women, white straight
Mhm.
women. So it's so important to make sure that the voices that are elevated through our news media are reflective of the democracy that we live in and that we're trying to save and create right now,
Yeah.
especially. So
Yeah, and are being convinced that they aren't there. But yeah, so how do you give, I'm just going to say it in this way, like how do you give the people that you work with permission to really step into that and really own that?
well, most folks have probably heard the term personal branding, and it kind of is one of those things that I think can make you feel like you might want to cringe, or you might feel like, oh, that's not for me, or like, do I have a personal brand? Do I want a personal brand? But at the end of the day, most of us who do come from non traditional, i.e., not white, straight male backgrounds, do have a personal brand of some sort that contributed to the business that we've created and the business that we're growing. And so I think it's really advantageous to look at how your personal brand does or could help fuel the growth of your business, because at the end of the day, I think people want to buy from people, they want to work with real people, and the authenticity piece is huge. So we work a lot with leaders on how to really own their story and embrace what are those pieces of self that they may have tried to push down for whatever reason or been told not to lead with, and see how those things actually can be great fodder for pitching your story to the news media in a way that feels really good and that feels
Mhm.
very true to who you are.
And do you feel like that's changed over time, that they are getting traction with those stories, or has that always been the case, but we've just been kind of holding ourselves back from that?
I mean, I think it's a good question. I think folks in news media are more aware that they have a diversity problem, as they have an
Yeah.
inclusion problem, and you see like interesting news sites popping up. Like, I love the 19th. I don't know if folks. It's a newsroom that's nonprofit, nonpartisan, and really covers stories of importance to women in the LGBTQ community. And they're just doing such amazing work. And they have a syndication program. So often 19th stories will run other places as well. So that's a great one. I think another example might even be just like the state's newsrooms, where they're really trying to infuse more accountability, political accountability reporting into every state capital in the country through a collaborative project. So those are two that really give me hope that people are listening and are really trying to make decisions differently in the media. I've also just personally seen more women of color in decision making power in newsrooms that we interact with, which I think is a
Yeah.
good thing.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's great. So, how one of your things is encouraging people to start small with their PR. What does that look like, and what does that mean in your world?
Yeah, well, I think as you were saying in the introduction, PR can feel really intimidating. I define PR as anything that impacts the reputation of your business. So PR to me is quite broad. A lot of times people think PR is just about making headlines or getting in the news, and that's certainly a big piece of it. That's publicity, right? And when I say start small, I mean think about one, who is your target audience? Are you a brick and mortar business, say in downtown, Sacramento or downtown Boise or something like that, where it really is important that you have some presence in the local media in your area. So that might look like making sure that you're aware of opportunities with your local business journal. Like, are there awards? Is there a 40 under 40 that you're totally qualified for but have never applied for in the past? That's essentially a PR opportunity for you and your company. Another example might be, for example, we have a client that is a law firm, a fast growing law firm, and they were, of course, dealing with businesses that were impacted by COVID and the various requirements. And so if you are in the professional services and something big happens that's impacting the daily life of your business, such as a pandemic, and you have a unique set of skills to weigh in on, how to handle that, you should do so. You should write, figure out how to contribute a guest column to your local business journal that can help you solve the problem that you're solving every day for your clients, right? How do you give people those nuggets of wisdom that might make them eventually want to turn to you for like legal services in this case?
Yeah, that's great. I just I am sharing this now because it happens every year. This company, Revolution Her is the name of it. They
Mm.
give $10,000 grants away
Mm-hmm.
to certain organizations. And I mean, although the money is nice, like none of us are working, none of us have a business for $10,000 a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what it comes with is a massive amount of PR opportunities because they're trying to market their business and
Mm-hmm.
in the opportunities that they're giving and creating within these companies that they're granting the money to. And so they're putting, as a recipient of that, they're putting you in front of all of these media outlets to talk about your story, to talk about, the grant opportunity, all of that kind of stuff, but also to talk about your business. So these
Mm-hmm.
things that can seem, I've always been like, why am I going to waste my time applying for grants and all of that kind of stuff? I'll just go and find clients.
Mm-hmm.
There's kind of some hidden benefit to a lot of
Mm-hmm.
those opportunities. Sometimes the 40 under 40 is such a
Mm-hmm.
great example too. I mean, the companies that, or the organizations that put those together spend
Mm-hmm.
so much to advertise it and to put it, to put your face in front of people as
Mm-hmm.
a part of that.
And getting back to, you asked like, how does a business become more visible? And again, I think it's so important to think back on why do you want to be visible to begin with? And who are you trying to be visible for? Because we have another client that's based in New York, just outside of the city. And they are really, like a lot of businesses, trying to attract talent right now. And so they are interested in also winning industry awards, some more national or even international awards for them. But they want to show up in the kinds of places that will attract top talent to come and work for them. And
Yeah.
so we're looking at outlets like, say, Ladders for the CEO, or other podcasts that folks who are in positions that they need to hire would be listening to. So it's a different game, right, than just trying to get on Good Morning America, which like everybody
Yeah.
wants. But what I always try to get clients to understand is like, you don't start there, right? You start with your local newspaper, you start with your statewide business journal. Maybe you get in like an airline magazine if you're, in a community that has a lot of resort, tourism folks coming in and out. So I think it's just important to think strategically about who you want to show up for, and who, just like any decision, hopefully you're making in your business, like who is that ideal client that you need to show up for, and
Yeah. And I think
where are they? Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think there's something awesome about that too, that I kind of slip into this place with PR of maybe not knowing how to approach it strategically, in terms of
Mm-hmm.
like, it feels like I just need to do it for my business, right? Like for my
Mm-hmm.
services, for whatever the offer is. And that's not actually the right way to say it, but I think what I love about what you just said is that you can, this isn't going to sound right, but compartmentalize your PR strategy. So it doesn't have to be like this long game of just, appearing in articles, doing these types of, kind of, I don't know, things that are going to take a while to gain some traction. It can be really specific to something like
Mm-hmm.
hiring. If
Mm-hmm.
hiring is what's happening, that's still spreading the message about what you do and who you are as a company, maybe even in a more meaningful way than talking about your services.
Absolutely. I mean, audience really is everything. We've had clients come to us because they want to impress, the majority of the state legislature, because they rely on some public funding, right? It's kind of an audience of one, or an audience of 100, or whatever.
Right.
And at the end of the day, you also want to create a media environment that speaks to constituents who might be inclined to tell those people to support that piece of funding that you need to run your program, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another example would be, we've worked with a couple venture-backed startups that have a social impact component. And so they often want to impress investors. It's not even really about customer acquisition, because they got somebody else like working on that. But it often, they do want to impress the folks that are on their board and who are giving them money. So there's lots of different reasons that people do PR. But I am a big fan of tying it back to the business objective that you're trying to hit, because otherwise I think it contributes to this idea that like PR is just the secret sauce that somebody has and we don't really understand it, but it works or it doesn't work. We don't know. Like let's like demystify it, right? And figure out what actually does work and how to measure it, and all agree on what success looks like and then help you get there. I think that's the way to do it. And that's really why I decided to bring on my business partner, Holly Conti, who's a digital marketing guru. And we had worked together at a previous agency. And I just think PR is so much more effective in this day and age if it is paired with effective digital marketing, and that you actually have a sales funnel that's working for you. And even if you are a brick and mortar business, like you still need to have a website and some semblance of a sales funnel and an email marketing component to your business to really keep your fans engaged and keep nurturing them so that eventually they buy from you. Because like the worst thing would be is if you do get on Good Morning America and everyone comes to your website and it's like an error code or it just crashes, or you have no opt-in, right? Because then you have no way to capture all of those brilliant impressions that PR can provide. So that's why I like to do it together.
Yeah, the number of clients that come to me, or the number of clients that I work with that come thinking that they want marketing. Like, I need marketing. I want to start doing ads. I want to start doing, like, I really want to start investing money in my marketing. I'm like, but where are you sending them? How? So you're getting traffic on your website, but like, what are you getting from that? So I love that that it really is all about the holistic approach to this. That, yes, marketing is very, very important.
And there's no reason you can't build the plane while you're flying it. I mean, I started my business in 2019. Sometimes it feels like we're still building the plane while we're flying it. But like you can never, I think it can almost be humbling. I don't know if this is your experience as well, but just you can never know everything there is to know about your ideal client. Like, never. And sometimes you get really far with one offer that you think is exactly what they want, but turns out, it's a misalignment there, or you're not explaining it right, or whatever the thing is. It's a constant iteration, which I think is what's so fun and exciting about business, but also what can be kind of daunting, right? And it can be helpful to have some fresh eyes on it. We have clients that think their ideal client is one thing, and then we talk to them and we uncover kind of their story and their key messages, and it's like, oh, maybe we actually need to tinker with it a little bit in terms of what it is that they're selling or how they're trying to engage with that particular target audience. Yeah. Actually, our last season of Totally Clutch, that was like one of the common themes is just ask your clients, ask your customers, connect with them, because that's who you're creating this product for. I mean, obviously you have a business because you have something, you have something that you believe in and you want to share it. You're also trying to make a living, but you're not building products for you. You're building products for the people that you're servicing. So yeah, it's such a good reminder, a constant reminder. So let's see, what happens to a business when you've got all of this stuff in place? So their visibility is nice, it's all solid. What can that mean for a business once they get to that point? Oh man. Well, one thing, it means that members of the media come to you, that you don't have to do quite so much pitching because people are starting to see you as the credible, subject matter expert that you are. Amazing. And they actually come to you when they need something. I take it as a huge compliment when I have at least two reporters from the New York Times, not to brag, that call me when they need something. And it's because I've hooked them up with stories. And even when it's not, something that has to do with a particular client, like I always, of course, bend over backwards to help them with whatever it is that they need. And I recently just had a CNN reporter find me, and we didn't know each other. She just found my website and called, and she was like, so sweet. She's like, I can't believe you answered. Oh my God. I'm like, you're CNN. Why wouldn't I answer? Like, we're only 7 people here. It's not a giant company. Plus our voicemail service goes right to my cell phone if they push 1 or whatever. So anyway, the point is people seek you out and they come to you with ideas. Another point I wanted to make sure to hit on is that I think sometimes one mistake that small business owners make is that they will something will happen that they think is really interesting. Like maybe if they're a nonprofit, they get a big grant, or if they're a business, they close their Series A round or something. So they send out a press release about it, but that's not enough, anymore. Like it's a press release usually is sent out after the news has happened, which means that nobody wants to cover that because the news is supposed to break, right? So you want to have a whole strategy in place if you are planning to send out a press release about anything, because the only luck that I've had and my clients have had with press releases for the most part is that you are actually doing a lot of pre-pitching and that you're really thinking through where you want that news to be picked up. And, number one, it should actually be newsworthy. I think sometimes people are apt to send out press releases about something that they think is interesting or something the CEO thinks is interesting, but isn't actually interesting to the viewership or readership of the publication.
Yeah.
So that's something we coach clients on a lot, is like news values and how do newsrooms actually make decisions. And if you want to make headlines, like what does that actually look like? And oftentimes it does come from, like the example you shared about the grants, the $10,000 grants, like taking aligned action with your values and doing something you want to do anyway. And then maybe somebody else thinks it's interesting too. And it also happens to help your business. That's great. We recently started covering travel costs related to accessing abortion care out of state because we're incorporated in Idaho. I live in Idaho, and so do a couple of our other employees. Our other employees live in New York and Washington at the moment, so they're probably fine. But we wanted to make sure that we have some equitable approach to what we see as a fundamental human right for people that can get pregnant. Like they need to be able to access abortion care. And so I wrote an op-ed about it because I was pissed and I wanted to do something. And it kind of blew up. We made a TikTok video. It had like 140,000 views. And now TikTok's like our biggest channel, and we kind of just started it. Because I was like, what's TikTok? I don't know if I want to do that. But now we're on Team TikTok and we're doing more there. And we actually had a national correspondent from this news organization fly out to Boise to do a story on me.
Wow.
For doing that, which like was not, not even what I set out to do, even though, yes, I am a PR person. I mean, I didn't want to not tell our story, but like, it wasn't like I want to make hay out of this particular issue. I just wanted to do the right thing and do right by my employees. And I think other business owners who feel the same way should lean into that. It differentiates you and it totally calls your fans, to borrow Rachel Rogers' terminology.
Yeah.
I love that you're a Schmilly also. So
yeah. This season's going to be Schmillyville.
Schmillyville.
Yeah, we've got a lot of them. Congratulations on that. That's incredible. And such a meaningful thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, that's great. I'm glad that it's getting that visibility. I have a lot of questions about everything that you just shared. I guess I'm curious, on the surface of things, can people do this themselves, or does it really only work if really work if they are, using somebody like you?
Well, I think like everything, it depends, right? I think I'm a big fan of taking the Strength Finder or like the DISC assessment, knowing your Enneagram, like all of those things will probably give you a pretty good indication as to whether you are a detail-oriented person, whether you are a person who likes organization and lists and checking off said lists, or maybe that's something you need to hire out. And there's no shame because like all the strengths are great, right? But you, I think, need to have enough self-awareness to know whether or not this is something you could actually pull off yourself. We are actually working on putting together a masterclass right now that is going to walk people through in a group style, class setting, exactly how to put together an annual strategic communications plan.
Oh, sweet.
Using the same framework that we do with like our VIP day clients and our retainer clients. So I think it'll be really helpful for those who are motivated enough and are willing to carve out like 5 hours a week to actually lean into this stuff. 5 hours, you might not need 5 hours every week, but I think if you really are determined to operationalize PR and marketing in everything that your business does, I think you should start with a number like that for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's great. Okay, so when is that going to be available?
Well, I know. I wish I had it all set for this podcast.
Yeah.
But no, if folks download our ultimate launch checklist, which is I think the little link that you have up there. Perfect.
Yeah.
They'll be the first to know when that drops,
Okay.
but it should be in the next month or so. We're
Okay.
getting close. We just have been updating our website, and
Yeah.
as I'm sure everyone listening knows, that sometimes takes way longer. It's kind of like remodeling your house, you know?
Yeah.
You think it's going to
Every
cost
time.
one thing and take this long, and then it's something else.
Every
So,
time.
yep.
Okay. Yeah, and the checklist is, I mean, that's not too shabby either. That's really
Yeah, it's our
helpful.
most popular kind of freebie that folks seem to get from our website. And it's really like, I think a lot of people come to a marketing firm or a PR firm because they have something they want to launch, right? Like this big thing's happening. We got a new product, we got a new service, we wrote a book. First of all, if you are in that camp, please give your PR person 90 days at least.
Yeah.
6 months is way better, because you can't just like launch something overnight, right? It should not be an afterthought. Like the PR and marketing plan that drives whatever the thing is that you're going to market with should very much be well crafted and thought out and is strategic. And so this checklist I think is really helpful for anybody who is wanting to launch a course or launch a membership or has a book coming out or thinks that they, are going to have a book coming out in the next year. This will just give you a good sense of what you need to be thinking about and what boxes you need to check to make sure that you're on the right path. And I think creating, a 6 or 12 month PR plan is very similar. Once you have that plan, it is much easier to operationalize it with your Trello or your Asana or whatever your thing is to make sure that you actually stick to it and have some accountability there.
Yeah.
So it's easier if you hire me, but you can do it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
And
would
what
say.
does that
Yeah.
look like? So if people want to work with you, they go to fullswingpr.com and
Yep,
just reach out.
Yep, they can just reach out that way. That's fine. We also are very active on Instagram. And so you can send us a DM if you have questions that way at Full Swing PR. We work with clients in basically 2 ways. So we offer 12-month PR and marketing retainers where we do all the things. We build your plan and execute it. So that includes your email marketing, your social media, and your media relations. So all of your pitching. We also ghostwrite articles for CEOs so that they can either show up in those trade publications that are really important to their target audience or, as subject matter experts on their LinkedIn, if that's how they're mostly getting clients, that sort of thing. And then we also offer a VIP day experience, which is really fun. And that's where we get to kind of co-create your plan with you. Generally, that is with the CEO. So we actually take their vision for the overall organization and create a communication strategy that aligns with that and actually can be measured against those business objectives that I think are so important when you're looking at your PR and marketing spend.
Yeah, that's great. That's really great. And I think for me, that's where the value is just being able to take all of these things. And I mean, you've said it multiple times already that there's the things that we think are interesting or the way that we talk about things is not really like, yes, that's what people need to hear, but is that what they are going to hear? Yeah. So it's great to have somebody that can help you kind of craft that and refine it.
And you can get too close to your own stuff,
Oh
I
my
mean,
gosh.
I've had a coach at every stage of my business, even when I probably couldn't afford one. And even what we pay now, sometimes I'm like, I don't know if we can really afford this, but we're doing it because it always pays off. And I think it's like, you just, when you're so immersed in the life of your business and all of the daily stuff that has to be done, I just think there's so much to be said for having some fresh eyes on your business and whether it's your operation strategy or your marketing strategy, just so you can really make sure that you are doing what you need to be doing to move your business forward.
Yeah, and that's huge. I mean, I just have started kind of tackling all of those different areas in my business on a weekly basis. And it's amazing how you start to create and find a thread that just lines through everything that you're doing. And it was there all the time. It just was like, I find that I was working so much harder, like my brain was working so much harder to find things to talk about, to find ways to service our clients, to do all of these things. But like you find that thread and it's like, wow, that's so easy.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that is so exciting about seeing more women become business owners and become business owners with significant wealth, who are generating 7 figures plus in revenue each year, is that we can do things differently. Like, we don't have to follow the old model. Like, there's so much of that is steeped in white supremacy. It's steeped in sexism, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work for anyone. And I think so much of our personal work too is tied up in that, because you can feel a lot of imposter syndrome when you start to break that mold. And, especially like, I live in Idaho, which is not generally aligned with my personal values. However, my family's been there for 4 generations, and I need the grandmas to help raise my kid. So I can do this business, right? So I live there for better or worse. And I do think, like, it's just really important to make sure that you have that community supporting you, and that you're supporting other vendors, or contractors who share your values, so that we can support each other as we try to build a different kind of world, because the old one is clearly very broken.
Very broken. Yeah, that's I'm so grateful that you said that. And what is it? I mean, I can't remember the numbers, but women, I think you're right. We all have a struggle with this imposter syndrome because we do think about things differently. But in reality, the facts are the facts, and women run companies are more successful oftentimes than men. Like a greater percentage are more successful than those run by men when it comes to revenue and all of that kind of stuff, like all the important metrics. So yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, it definitely, I think, is a way to build a more inclusive form of capitalism.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, like, our company has unlimited vacation. We have paid parental leave from day one. We have paid healthcare from day one. Like, those are things that I think do really matter to women employees, and they certainly matter to me as a leader as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's huge. Awesome. Cailtin, is there anything else that we should know, that we should leave with?
Oh gosh. Well, I hope you'll download the checklist. I hope it will be very helpful for you. And we do send out weekly emails. We try to just jam pack them full of juicy advice and tidbits. And I hope you'll sign up. And I am very stoked about this masterclass that we were planning. And I'm sorry we don't have a link to it yet, but it's real life. So
all good things
it'll
are
be
worth the
there
wait.
soon. And you'll be the first to know if you sign up for our list.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Cailtin, so much. This was really, really beneficial and really helpful. And yeah, I'm grateful for all of your insight.
Oh, thanks. I'm grateful for the opportunity. And next time we will meet in real life.
In
I
real
have a
life.
feeling.
All right. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.